All right, good afternoon, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to She Leads Africa's webinar today with welcome to our webinar with Ms. Nnenna Kalu Makanjuola. She is the founder of the Radiant Health magazine, and she's going to be talking to us about two things today. First of all is living a healthy lifestyle as an entrepreneur and overall generally busy motherland mogul. And the second thing she'll be talking to us about is how you yourself can go ahead and start business in the health and wellness industry. And so without further ado, please, Ms. Nnenna, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself? Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. As you said, my name is Nnenna Kalu Makanjuola, and I am the founder and editor-in-chief of Radiant Health magazine. I'm trained as a pharmacist, and I moved on into the public health career before launching Radiant Health magazine.
Got it. And so tell us a little bit more about Radiant Health magazine. Why did you decide to start it? And then what does it provide your audience? And where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, sure. Radiant began as Nigeria's first women's health magazine, and it's been on for 2 years, and we've since grown to become Africa's leading health magazine. And our sole mission really is to provide high quality, credible, and actionable health content for the African audience, whether they're in diaspora or they're actually on the African continent. And we accomplish this through our online platform at radianthealthmag.com, and we also publish the Radiant Health magazine, which is a bi-monthly digital and print magazine issue.
Got it. And so I know that.
Oh, sorry. I need to mention also that besides the credible and high quality content that we aim to provide, our other mission really is to be able to tell African stories, because usually the African health stories have been defined by other people. And one of our very strong aim and goal is to be able to tell those African health stories, to showcase Africans who are actually participating and doing things to improve the health of Africans. And more importantly, or equally just as important, is also to share the health stories. Usually we tend to shrink and hide when we have health issues. We don't share those stories and other people don't benefit. We only come out when it's too late to actually do something about it. So we're very particular about sharing different stories of African women who have gone through different health issues and how they overcame those.
That's wonderful. So what are some of the different things that people can find in the print magazine versus the more blog format of the website?
Sure. Online on radianthealthmag.com, our content is it's shorter compared to the content that we have in the actual magazine issues. So currently our magazine issues biannual, twice a year. They're available for subscription on the Apple platform and Google Play for Android devices. And the print issue is set to launch in just a few days. But the difference is with the magazine, we also go by themes. Mm-hmm. So we're able to focus exclusively on a particular subject, and we go in depth and we cover throughout that issue, it follows sort of the same theme. For instance, this issue that we have coming up is on mental wellness. And so even when we're talking about style and beauty, we're talking about nutrition, whatever we're talking about, it incorporates that element. And of course, with the magazine issues, you also get a chance to sort of slow down, instead of click and moving on to something else. It's an opportunity to slow down and really soak up the information that we have to offer you. And especially with the print issue now that we have, is like a coffee table style magazine. You know, you really get to experience it, you know, beautiful pictures. It's just gorgeous, even if I say so myself. But, you know, you sort of get that tactile experience while you're slowly absorbing the information that we have to offer.
Got it. That's awesome. We're definitely looking forward to the magazine. Where can people get their hands on this magazine, the one that's launching soon?
Sure. We're launching in just a few days, and readers can get it on our website at radianthealthmag.com/subscribe. Once you get to the website, you definitely find a link to it. And we'll be shipping to Nigeria, US, UK. We're also working with distributors and other stockists. So all the locations where the print issue is going to be available will also be on our website. And of course, with the digital subscription, which is a replica of the print issue, you can subscribe. You can download the Radiant Health app on iTunes or Google Play and be able to read it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So digital and definitely handheld as well.
Yes.
Great. We're definitely looking forward to it. Okay, so moving right along to kind of the more of the information that a lot of people can find within Radiant Health Magazine and what they tend to come to you for. A lot of our audience members really wanted to know, as students, moms, entrepreneurs, and generally busy people in this 21st century world, how can they make sure that they fit healthy eating and exercise into their everyday schedule?
Sure. Well, you know, the one, it requires planning, but it's not as complicated as it sounds, you know. When we think about healthy living, we think that it involves some sort of massive action, you know, but I tend to believe in the small steps that you take that lead to the giant results that you're looking for. So when it comes to food, my recommendation is always to plan ahead, you know, because if you don't plan ahead, it's easy to grab the next thing. And, you know, sometimes people say they're tired of eating the same food over and over again, but they're never tired when it's the same junk food over and over again. So even when you plan your menu, I think when you plan your menu, it's okay if you're sort of eating the same thing week after week. I mean, the same nutritious food week after week. That way, you're not feeling pressured to vary your food. You know, when you make your menu plan and you think, oh, different kinds of foods, you just need to pick a few and be consistent with those, and it makes it easier. And then you can build, maybe in 2 weeks, you can add a new meal to your menu and keep going that way. So it makes your planning easy in terms of your shopping, what you have to buy, and the meals that you have to prepare. And, you know, when it comes to exercise, you don't have to wait until you have that 1 hour where you go out to run, or you have that 1 hour when you go out to do like something really massive. So one of the things that we do at Radiant, we have a separate private group, you know, which we call the Radiant Body Reboot. And I'm a strong advocate of 10 to 15 minutes a day, you know, to get some workout and some sort of movement and physical activity. Because what you find is people end up delaying because they think they don't have the 1 hour, they forgo the movement altogether. So some of the things you can do is, you know, when you wake up, try to get at least 10 minutes of physical activity. We have so many plans on radianthealthmag.com. We have so many fitness plans. If you go to the fitness section, and you can find something that you can do, you know, in 10 minutes or in 15 minutes every morning. And when you go about your daily work, your usual activities, you need to find simple ways that you can incorporate activity. You know, one of the things that I really like is getting up and walking every 2 hours. Some people say every 1 hour, but if you're like me, where you like to sit and sort of sit down for a long time, you know, to get your work done, I think every 2 hours would be good. You know, so you just get up and walk around the block, you know, grab a friend, walk around the block. If you have a meeting with your coworker, you should choose to walk, you know, instead of sitting down. So there's small actions that you can take that really do add up. You know, I really try to encourage people not to wait until you find that magical hour.
Because it might never come. So rather than find that hour, you kind of create it throughout the day by taking walks every 2 hours, like you said. You know, that might add up to 1 hour, and even if it doesn't, it's okay. You've had a couple minutes of exercise.
Yeah, and there's so many free apps to track your movements now. You know, one of my favorite is the Nike app. It's free, so you can just download it. The Nike Plus app, you can download it and turn it on every time you walk. That way you can track what you're doing. Some people like the Fitbit, whatever it is that you use to track. There are many things that you can use to track. That way you can actually feel like you're doing something. You know, this is coming from a very busy, you know, I'm very busy running the magazine. I have children of my own. So I can really understand sort of the sentiment.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And then one of the questions, you know, people had was more so around healthy eating, and then how to kind of get your family involved. And so you said you have kids, and so how do you get your family, you know, involved with healthy eating and living a healthy lifestyle? Especially when you have kids who are picky eaters, or if the entrepreneur themselves are a picky eater.
Yeah, well, I feel like even the picky eater always has something that they like, right? So you should start from what you like to eat, and move on from there. You know, when it comes to children, I think, you know, if you can from the get-go, you set the tone. So my children, for instance, with my kids, they don't really have the option. You know, they eat what they see, right? So that sort of sets the tone for the kids. But if maybe you've already sort of moved away from that and you need to come back, I really suggest that you do it in bite sizes, and that you don't do, oh, eat your vegetable, oh, just try one. They sort of follow, they follow our cues. You know, when we talk to them in that term, it makes them feel like, oh, that I shouldn't like eating this, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we should just sort of present the food matter-of-factly and see how the child adapts to it. And I also think when it comes to food that we should really keep it simple. I know many people are looking for a magic formula. Mm-hmm. There's no magic formula. It's just to keep it simple. You know, as Africans, we're really, especially Africans on the continent, we're really suffering a dual burden of disease now, where we're just not dealing with infectious disease. Now the non-communicable disease, obesity, diabetes, it's catching up to us, you know? Mm-hmm. And part of the reason is because we've moved away from how our grandparents used to eat, you know? We need to get back to the basics. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. If it comes in a box, don't eat it, you know? And people need to get back to having gardens in their house, you know, plant your own vegetables. Just be a bit more conscious about about the food. One of the things I hear a lot is this idea of African food not being compatible with health, and I reject that completely. You know, I think that our food, the African diet, is a very healthy diet if we eat it the way that it was intended to. The part of the problem now is that we're snacking in between. We're not as physically active as we used to be, or as we should be. And of course, you've seen our servings. You know, it's like you get a mountain of rice, right. and really no vegetables or other nutritious foods to cook with it. So I think we really need to get back to the basics when it comes to food. Bread is not African food. Rice is not African food. Indomie is not African food. You know? So and the starchy foods are okay. You know, the yams and the plantains are okay if we eat them the way that our grandparents did.
Right, and then a lot of stews also have vegetables in them, like egusi. It's like all watermelon and leaves and everything like that. So there's definitely ways people can find to make African food healthier, or just decreasing the amount of oil. Because I know that's another complaint about African food, is that it's very oily and very carb heavy.
Yes. But that was not that's not how it was intended. You know, mm-hmm. Our grandparents probably ate some of the heavy meals, but they ate 3 times a day. And in between, they were very physically active on their jobs, right? And their foods, even with the soups, it was just full of vegetables and spices that we've gotten away from now. Now we're going more for the packaged spices. So we have so many good foods that we're not taking advantage of. And I should mention here too that that's one of the things that we focus on Radiant Health. We actually have a section in the magazine that is called Local Champ. And the Local Champ section is where we pick a particular African food, or I'm talking about the raw food here, like the seeds or vegetable or something. And we actually present it with all the health benefits. We do the research. So this is not some Wikipedia information. And then we also show you how you can incorporate it into your daily meal plans.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, and then I think moving on from that, so you've explained what healthy eating looks like a bit to us, but then how about just people are wondering about the effects of eating too much fruit, or maybe skipping lunch or eating lunch late? Like, in general, what does a nutritious diet look like? Like, I think we've talked a little bit about what it doesn't look like, but like, what does it look like to be eating healthy and a balanced diet?
Yeah, so our Radiant Health nutrition editor, Cordialis, she's a dietitian, and she's always saying, eat the rainbow, right? So that's the first thing. You want to eat the rainbow. You want your plate to be colorful, because say, for instance, when it comes to fruit, each of the different colors provide different nutrients. So don't just stay with one particular food that you like to eat. And your plate really should be composed of vegetable, carb, protein, and it should be colorful. So that's really the basics of it. We tend to over-focus on the carb. So we tend to have like the 80% carb, and then everything else in between is like the 20%. And I think it should be reversed. When it comes to fruits, we should still remember that the fruit still has sugar. So even though it's a good form of sugar in the sense that it's not refined sugar, just because if you're eating way too much fruits and you're not burning it off, you might not be doing yourself any particular favors. So we actually recommend 80% vegetables and 20% fruits. So your fruit serving a day should be something like 2 to 4 servings of fruits, and you should have 80%, about 2 cups of vegetables each day.
Okay, that makes sense. And then when you say servings of fruit, is that like 2 to 4 apples, or is that is a serving more like half an apple?
A serving is an apple, but a medium, like your fist, the size of your fist. A medium-sized apple, it could be half a cup of sliced fruits. Or just one piece of fruit for the most part. If it's a medium-sized fruit, would count as a serving, or a cup of cut up fruits.
Okay, and then moving on to energy, because I think that's the other part of living a healthy lifestyle. You have your food, your exercise. We have some audience members who are interested in the effects of coffee, and they find themselves drinking a lot of coffee and a lot of energy drinks, and like we said before, too much in excess is never good for you. So what are kind of some other alternatives to having energy throughout the day, because a lot of busy people do have long days?
I think one of the most underrated health activity these days is sleep. Right? which is understandable. I'm also guilty. So, but we need to prioritize sleep. We really need to prioritize sleep. And I know, even as entrepreneurs, we're pretty much going 24/7, it seems. But as much as possible, I think it's always nice to have a hard cut-off time when you prepare for bed, and turn off all your electronics, turn off social media, your phone, put it aside. And I always recommend that you sort of give yourself about 30 minutes to cool down, 30 minutes before. Let's say you decide your bedtime is going to be at 9:30, by 9 o'clock, you need to start and get into bed. So sleep is the number one thing that I would recommend. Secondly, I'm not a big fan of cold turkey quitting, so I wouldn't say you should just quit your coffee or your energy drink. What I would recommend is, if you normally have 5 cups of coffee, you should be able to substitute, start off by substituting 1 cup, so you can have a glass of water instead of that 5th cup of coffee. And something that I alluded to earlier, which is getting up every 1 to 2 hours to actually move, is also a very good way to get your heart pumping and to get you really energized for the next hour. This is something I've tried, and I actually found that it works really well. So, something you can do every hour, get up and do 10 push-ups. I'm giving you a challenge, right? I'm giving the SLA community a challenge. So every hour, do 10 push-ups, or every hour do 10 jumping jacks, maybe 20 jumping jacks. 10 is too easy, right? You can do like 20 jumping jacks or 10 burpees. If you keep that up every hour, you're not going to need the coffee. So that is one trick, one trick that you can try.
Well, there you have it, SLA community. You've been given a challenge. So I now want you all to get out there and do your exercise every hour. Maybe tag Radiant Health Magazine and SLA on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll see if we can get you all a giveaway. So definitely tag us and let us know what exercises you're up to. And if you work in an office space, that's not an excuse to get up and exercise. If you're too embarrassed, go into the bathroom, do your jumping jacks in there, or better yet, get your whole office to get up and exercise with you. Yes. But let us know what you're up to, and tag us, SLA, and tag Radiant Health Magazine too, so we can see what you all are up to. And we might find someone we might find a giveaway for one lucky member who does that.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so moving right along then. So the other half of what we want to talk about today is also just being an entrepreneur in the health and wellness field. So a lot of the audience members who are watching today, they want to know how you go about starting a health business online. Some of the things that they mentioned being worried about was, one, building credibility. We lost light, Nepa. I'm sorry, you all, but you can see my smile. I'm still here. It's back. Yay, Nigeria. So anyways, they want to know like how they can go about building a health and wellness business online through things such as building credibility, or what kind of topics they should be focusing on, or what kind of content they should be creating, and things of that nature. Just in general, how do you go about building a health business using digital tools like the internet?
So the first thing I would say, of course, is that you have to do your research, right? So research, which is not to say you should spend all your time doing research and not doing any action, but the first thing you want to do is to research the business that you want to start. For instance, when I started Radiant Health, I really didn't have any interest in magazine. My background is in public health, and also as a pharmacist, I worked in global health. So I didn't know anything about starting a magazine. So my first line of action when I decided this was something I wanted to do was to read up as much as I could about starting a magazine. So I devoured all the information I could find online. I bought books, I read the books. And so you do the research. And the number 2 thing I would say, for me, is like you have to be audacious, right? Once you decide you're going to be an entrepreneur, I guess being audacious is it goes hand in hand. So after I read all I could and I started working on it a bit, I actually did contact one of the authors of the books that I read. And I said, hey, I read your book. I loved it. Would you mind consulting with me? You know, and she was flattered enough. So she said yes. So, and that's how we worked together, which really helped me because in some sense it helped to validate my concept. You know, you just feel good that you're getting a second opinion from somebody who has done it, which leads me to the other thing, seeking out other people who have done what it is that you're trying to do. So it may not necessarily be one-on-one. It could be people that you just follow online. You get to read their content. It could also mean joining groups of entrepreneurs just like you, who may not necessarily be trying to do something in the same line, but at least they're trying to launch a business or they've launched a business, and being able to sort of share joint experiences with them. And then you really need to find a way to get in front of your audience, because no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you think you know what you want to do, you never really know until you present what it is that you've been building to the people that you're building it for. So that needs to happen sooner rather than later. You need to get it out in front of your audience and let them tell you what they need. So those would be my sort of best steps to getting started. If you have, especially in the health business, never, ever, 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 ever cut corners. You know, you just don't do it. Don't cut any corners, because it only takes that one mistake, right? It only takes that one mistake to lose credibility, and your credibility is really key, especially for if you're catering to an African audience. You know, we're generally suspicious because all the people that have come to us in the name of good, you know, have ended up selling some sort of snake's oil, right? So we're generally very, very cautious about what we gravitate towards. So I would say just don't ever compromise your integrity. Don't find a way to justify what you're doing. If it just doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Makes sense. Thank you. And then how about those entrepreneurs that are like in the overhaul wellness industry, but they're trying to incorporate more healthy living into their business? So for example, there was like 2 massage therapists who are watching the webinar today, who are interested in how to offer more wholesome lifestyle choices to their clients.
I would say, what are your clients talking to you about? You know, because for a massage therapist, for instance, you really have a good advantage in the sense that you're in a very intimate relationship with your client, right? You really have them all to yourself, and sometimes they do confide in you. They might tell you, oh, this hurts because X, Y, Z. So if you notice, there might be a general theme that is constantly occurring with your clients. So you need to sort of be more in tune and pay attention to what that is, and then find an effective solution for that. People are very busy in this day and time, especially us women. We're juggling so much. So when it comes to health and wellness, people are trying to find a source that they trust, right? So when they don't have time to go research, they need to know that they can trust you to provide that solution for them. So if you listen, for a massage therapist, it could just be something as simple as sending out emails, especially if you do send out thank you emails for coming. You know, you can just send out like a weekly health, you know, that is actionable. Just don't send, you know, I really don't like when I sort of get regurgitated content. You know, you really have to put yourself in the position of the person who is receiving it, and think about how actionable the content that you're sending out is going to be. So if you decide to go that route of sending like a weekly bite-sized information, you can. And I think that even if your audience is not telling you what they want, you should come up with some questions that you yourself can use to ask your clients what it is that they want. Sometimes you might have to guide them a little bit, because if you say, well, how can I help you? Then it's a really huge question, right? So you can, based on some of the conversations that you're having, you can tailor some questions and be able to dig a little bit deeper to hear what it is that they want. And the other thing is, if you can make your office a one-stop shop, for instance, if there's a particular health need, being for a massage therapist, I can think of maybe essential oils, for instance. If there's something that you can provide your clients that is going to make their lives easier, instead of writing a note and say, oh, go look for this at this market, or go to this supermarket, or, if you can stock it in your location, so when they come in, it's a one-stop shop, that would be good. And if you can also compile a list of resources that you trust, so when they have questions, you can say, oh, I know for sure you can get it, you can get this here. That's another way that you can incorporate, and then you just follow it up and see where it leads you.
Oh, awesome. And then Radiant Health should definitely be on that list of resources, right?
You shouldn't miss it.
Definitely. We agree. So any other final advice for our audience, either as entrepreneurs or just people trying to live a healthy lifestyle?
I think that living a healthy lifestyle is, we hear this cliche, it's not a destination, right? So you're going to fail. You're going to fail terribly, especially if you're an entrepreneur. If you're a mother like me and you're juggling several, you're juggling your kids and your business, and some of you have side gigs while you're still working your job, So there's really no, one way that does it. You have to find the way that works best for you, and you have to keep on refining it. And you have to accept that you're not always going to hit the mark. And, even if you stumble for 2 weeks, get back up and try again, So it's just a constant thing that we have to go through. I also really love the idea of what we call the Radiant Body. So when we do a quarterly exercise challenge, we always recommend that our Reboot challengers, that they have, that they partner up with somebody. So if you're really trying to live healthy, it's always nice to be able to partner with maybe your neighbor, your coworker, your sister, somebody who can keep you accountable, while you can keep each other accountable. So I really, really believe in the power of group accountability. And for those who are us, for instance, I think the same rule applies. You're going to fail. You're going to fail woefully at some things, and the key is, cry it out, do what you have to do, dust yourself up, and get up and keep going, because, that's the only way you're going to reach your goal. I know that as entrepreneurs, we also have we have so many things that we want to do. That just keeps coming. The ideas are a dime a dozen. And I really recommend a book called The One Thing, which is the book is really a big proponent for focusing on one thing at a time. And I think that could not be more, overstated. You really need to try and narrow down the things that you're doing to bite-sized action bits and focus on one thing. Other things are going to suffer sometimes when you have that singular focus. But if you don't do that, a whole year will go by and none of the things that you wanted to accomplish would have been accomplished. So I think break down your goals, focus on one thing at a time. Don't be afraid, experiment, experiment, experiment. We've gone through several iterations ourselves, and you should never be afraid to try new things. You know, test, experiment, test, measure, and go back to experimenting. So those would be my tips.
Awesome. And then those are definitely super useful for people who are in the process of creating their New Year's resolutions. And so I definitely just want to reiterate the things that you said about making sure that the goals that you set for yourself are actionable and that there are things you can experiment with and that you should try to work on throughout the year. So rather than just your New Year's resolution being get fit or get healthy, make it something that you can measure, that you're able to put steps behind and create actions behind. And when you're looking to know what those actions should be, that's when you turn to magazines like Radiant Health Mag to see what does it mean to get fit, what does it mean to get healthy, what actionable things can I put underneath this overall goal to help me achieve it. And then also there's a lot of resources on SLA's website about, you know, time management and creating goals and what those look and what it looks like to actionize the goals that you want.
Yes, you summed it up pretty well, yes.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar today. We definitely learned a lot as busy women and also as entrepreneurs in the health and wellness industry. And so I just want to remind the audience again of the challenge that we posed to you today, which is to get up every hour and do some exercises, whether it's jumping jacks or some push-ups in your office space, or if you work from home or wherever you are. And I've decided what our giveaway is going to be. So what you're going to need to do is that you're going to need to make sure you're a part of the SLA community already. The link to join our community is below. And in addition, Radiant Health Mag has offered to give SLA moguls an exclusive bonus with their launch that's coming out soon. And so the link for that is also going to be below. So you need to also sign up for that. So you need to be a part of the SLA community, sign up for the bonus that SLA community members get through Radiant Health Magazine. And then you're gonna go ahead and post yourself exercising on either Instagram or Twitter, tag the both of us, She Leads Africa. She Leads Africa is our name on Instagram and Twitter, and then Radiant Health Mag, so NG, right?
Radiant Health Mag on Instagram and Radiant Health NG on Twitter.
Okay, and I'll write all of that below, and so tag us in both of those, and then we'll pick one lucky winner to get a mentoring session of 20 minutes with someone from the SLA team. If our lovely Nnenna has time, she's going to join us, but that is not a promise. But SLA does promise to give you a 20-minute coaching session. So we'll pick one lucky winner who is part of the SLA community, has signed up for the Radiant Health Mag bonus, and then has also posted a picture of themselves exercising or eating healthy, something they learned from this session, and has tagged both organizations. Hope it makes sense. But I'll write it all below.
We'd love to join you in on the session offer, and I'll also add a giveaway to our brand new print magazine to one lucky winner.
Awesome. So did you all hear that? Now you have even more reason to go ahead and make sure you're a part of the SLA community, part of the Radiant community, and that you are giving us an example of how you are put in action to the goals that we just talked about today. So again, thank you so much. All the information that I just talked about is going to be below. And those of you who weren't able to join us live from the very beginning, we're gonna have a link for this video up very soon on our website. So thank you all for joining again.
Thank you for having me.